Good Shabbos. So I am aware that there is a playoff game, and we still have Musaf and we still have lunch. For those Cavs fans, I saw some Cavs gear within our congregation. So I wanted to briefly address, and if you have the handout that you received, what I've compiled for you are the beginnings of different readings, questions, comments, and rituals to add to your Seder this year. For, as we know, the Seder is about retelling our ancient story of our people's liberation from Egyptian bondage. But this year, 5784, in 2024, on this Seder night, we are keenly aware that we are actors in the unfolding of Jewish history. And perhaps, like me, we all feel an extra responsibility to make this Passover even more meaningful. And I share with you several resources, and if you get our Friday Shabbat email, or just on our website, I've compiled something that's called Seder Resources. There was a link towards the top of that email, and that has it has all of these readings except the last one, which I will briefly guide you through. But it also has 5 pages of different rituals and complete Haggadot that have been written in the last 6 months, how to bring what's happening in Israel and throughout our world to our Seder table, and how to do that in a way where we can have real conversations with each other. So I'm going to open with a couple words from the Hartman Haggadah insert, which you can find here. I only photocopied a few select pages, but there's actually an entire guide, if you download it, and the link is there or on what I sent you, a guide for hosting and facilitating a Seder this year. So I just wanted to share one word, and this is by Dasi Berkowitz. For everyone hosting a Seder, you are in a unique position. You have the opportunity to invite your guests to become active participants in an ancient ritual that holds potential for healing, for healthy discussion, and for bringing hope. The Seder table is the stage for this ancient rite of retelling. Family, friends, and other guests are the actors. The Haggadah is our script. As we prepare the stage for the Seder, let's consider 4 frameworks to guide preparation. And she suggests that the Seder can be seen in 4 ways: to enable freedom within boundaries, to share tales of resilience, to ask questions in a redemptive way, to ask better questions, and lastly, to celebrate life and elevate gratitude even in our most difficult times. And in that way, Mishael Tzion, who is the author of many of these pieces from the Hartman Haggadah, writes this: our Passover Seder begins in a broken world amidst slavery and oppression. The sound of the breaking of matzah sends us into fractured existence, only to become whole again. And that is the goal of the Pesach Seder, to find that what is missing, that's been broken, and bring it together. Many of us have felt very heartbroken over these past 6.5 months. And how do we bring that to our table while we're also rejoicing and celebrating and grateful for all that we have? So what I shared for you in this compendium is a series of readings. The goal of this is for you to find things that speak to you to bring to your table. So I just want to highlight a few of them. My favorite song of Passover is Echad Mi Yodeya, Who Knows One. And if you ever come to my Seder, it is a rousing rendition. We do a fun English version of it. Who Knows One, which of course goes from 1 to 13. But I'll share with you, you can find it later, but in the middle of the section, there's this page, which is a Passover supplement from Joel Chasnoff and Benji Lovett. Those who were at our Israel Bonds dinner this past fall. Benji Lovett was our guest speaker who came. And there they suggest that we should count to 133. And that's a way of, again, bringing the hostages into the conversation and into our Seder. And they recommend, if you've seen Rachel Goldberg, the mother of Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, one of the hostages, American hostage, by the way, she has worn a piece of tape with the number of every day of captivity. And they recommend that you prepare or put somewhere on the table or on the Seder plate the number of the day. The first night of Seder will be 199 days for our hostages in captivity. And the second night of Seder will be 200 days of captivity. So to have those numbers and to bring those numbers to the table. Another recommendation is, you may know that now the yellow ribbon stands to bring them home, and to wrap yellow ribbons around the wine glasses at our table or around the Seder plate itself. Again, just symbols. Others suggest putting a lemon on the Seder plate for the difficult times, for the lemons that we've been given, but also the idea that with lemons we can make lemonade. How can we make the most out of this difficult time? What you see on the front cover is a piece of art that was created from a special program from Bezalel Academy called Wrapping Memory. If you can read the really tiny things, Michel Tzion found this from a special art project that artists around Israel went and drew and painted and drew different illustrations of the border Gaza kibbutzim and towns. And this is Kibbutz Be'eri. And of course, what is the thing that is most prominent in this picture? Right, the red flowers. Right, so some suggest also decorating your Seder table with red poppies. And there's something very special. If you don't know, these are wild flowers that erupt across Israel as a splash of color in the spring. Nowhere is it more dramatic than in these border towns of Gaza. And in fact, there is a festival every year that happens around February where in normal years, 400,000 Israelis visit these border towns to walk through the beautiful wild flowers on the rolling hills that look like red carpets. It is called Darom Adom, Scarlet South or Red South. Of course, there is a difficult moment in that because we think about all of the dam, all of the blood and the bloodshed that has brought such difficulty there. But the incredible thing about the land and the land of Israel is that this year, once again, even with the desolation and the destruction, those red poppies, they're actually not technically poppies, but they look like poppies. The red poppies sprung up again early this spring in Israel, all across the Gaza envelope as a symbol of resilience and renewal and hope. So there's a way to bring red flowers to our table, or if you open to the next page, there's a beautiful reading. It's the back of the first page. This is from the Hartman Seder supplement, where they actually ask questions. If you get it in color, right, this is a smaller version of that picture. They're guided questions for conversation, and a really beautiful reading from a kibbutznik from Kibbutz Ner Oz that wrote in 1996 this special reading on the left, which you can take a look later, Lift Up a Glass. And it talks about how all different Israelis come together in solidarity. That was written in 1996. And this is a reading that's been chosen for this Hartman Haggadah. On the back, you may have heard, if I said last week, I collect Haggadot. The newest Haggadot, which I just got on Friday, is a special Haggadah that was just printed from Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the kibbutzim that was most attacked on October 7th, a special Haggadah from the Hostage and Missing Families Forum. And in that, I include this reading from the back from Rita. If you don't know who Rita is, she is one of the most famous Israeli singers. She was born in Tehran, Iran, and made Aliyah with her family at the age of 8 in 1970 to Israel. And she is one of the most leading singers and actresses and songwriters in Israel. And this Haggadah, put together by hostage families, ends with Hatikva. Though I'm going to suggest that to end your Seder with Hatikva, and perhaps to include the prayer for the IDF, which we include every Shabbat, also at your Seder table. But this was what Rita wrote, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just read a couple of thoughts. My father used to tell us, his girls, that the most important commandment is think good thoughts, speak good words, and do good deeds. Every crisis, every difficulty creates a form of exodus for each one of us. In these difficult times, I find myself writing lyrics to songs, words that become prayers, mantra that affects the experiences that I go through. I want to influence others to feel the way I do, to better themselves, to draw strength from my words, to be able to breathe, grow, and develop a sense of personal empowerment. Especially now during these heartbreaking times we are living through. I walk amongst my people and proud to discover a unique nation, one big family whose sense of camaraderie is an extreme value. I find myself thinking, if I had to choose, I am glad I chose to belong to these people. And she is a beautiful then lead into Hatikva, if you choose to end your Seder with Hatikva. How else can we bring in what's happening in Israel to our table? We are going to add an empty chair to our Seder. I will say that Hirsch's parents, Rachel and John, who are, spoken, and one of the Time 100, Rachel was just designated this past week, they actually said, don't put a chair out. We don't want people to put a chair out. We want Hirsch to be home at our Seder plate, at our Seder table, and not to put an empty chair out. But many of us are putting an empty chair out, and I put on our website a new website that was created called One Seat, where there is a poster of each of the hostages, not the kidnap posters, which we've all seen and put up. These are different because they give a bio of each of them, and to find someone that's similar to you, similar to your age or where they are in life, and it tells a short story with their photo so that we can literally bring them to our Seder table. So on this Pesach, as we gather in joy, as we gather with heartbreak, how do we move forward? How do we have hope? And I'd like to close with the last reading, and I want you to, there's a beautiful reading on the third to last page about how to bring Elijah and Miriam to our Seder. Elijah's with the hostages, Miriam is with the lost, and that's from the poet that we've brought many times, Alden Salavi. And there are many, many different readings. I brought two different versions of the Manishtanah of the 4 questions that are in here, so I offer you to take a look at that. But I'd like to conclude in particular with how we find hope. And that's on, I think, page 4, which is 23 in the packet. And this is from David Grossman, the Israeli author. I thought over and over again, trying to awaken hope inside of me. I called it out loud in Hebrew, Hatikva. Perhaps even it speaks in Hebrew, Tikva, Tikva. I thought about Israel's national anthem, which is called Hatikva, the Hope, and speaks of the hope held by Jews for 2,000 years in exile, the hope of one day being able to live in their own country. It was a hope that often kept them alive. Hope is a noun, but it contains a verb that propels it into the future. Always to the future, always with forward motion. One could look at hope as a sort of anchor cast across the stifled, desperate existence towards a better, freer future. towards a reality that doesn't exist yet. It is an act of optimism when we cast this anchor beyond the concrete arbitrary circumstances, when we dare to hope we are proving that there is still one place in our soul where we are free, that no one has been able to suppress. And thanks to this anchor of fearlessness, of freedom, in the souls of those who have hope, they know what the reality of freedom looks like and how crucial it is to fight for it. Again, there are guiding questions that are brought here from Hartman and others. My closing words for our Siddharim is, I think it's important to bring in October 7th, to bring in the hostages, but we also have to continue to bring in our own family traditions, to bring in gratitude and bring in joy. We're still going to sing Dayenu. We're still going to sing Who Knows One. We're still going to gather together. We're still going to have our 4 cups of wine. So I think it's important for those who are Seder facilitators to pick and choose certain places to bring in Israel, to bring in October 7th, to bring in the rise of anti-Semitism, to allow for real big questions and discussions at the Seder table, and to find hope. That we can end with hope, as Cantor said, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim. In many Haggadot, we add an extra phrase. We don't say next year in Jerusalem. We say, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim habenuya, rebuilt Jerusalem. We don't just hope for the Jerusalem that exists at this moment. We hope for a better Jerusalem, a better world, a world that is rebuilt with peace, a world where our hostages are home, a world where Jews can live freely and safely, a world where we are not questioned and feared or in fear, a world that is rebuilt with love and with kindness. May this Passover be sweet. May this Passover be kosher. By the way, this was when the rabbi was supposed to give an hour-long talk about how to clean your kitchen. That's really why it was called Shabbat Hagadol. No offense, Cantor. It's because the shul would be packed for an hour instruction about how to remove chametz from your home, about how to boil your pots, about whether you can have things that are chametz with a certification, without a certification. I've gotten many of those emails and texts and tried to answer them as best as I can, which tuna fish we can have, which tuna fish we can't have. And that is important, right? Because as we thankfully live here in freedom, we also know that there are boundaries to our freedom, that we live within a society and within a culture and within a tradition where we know that there are lines that we don't cross and where we bring tradition in. So this year, this Pesach, may there be redemption, may there be freedom for all, and may there be peace. Shabbat Shalom.